Hello YouTube, welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to retouch this image that was shot by a fellow photographer. His name is Amin. I'll put a link to his page in the description below. You guys should check out his amazing work. Yeah. So to edit this picture, we are going to be using my retouching actions which I gave out for free. The actions include frequency separation action, dodge and burn action, and cleaning teeth and eyes action. I'll also put a link for you to download the actions. Don't forget they are absolutely free. If you don't know how to install the actions, it is absolutely simple. All you need to do is download the actions, double click on them, and they will come straight inside your Photoshop. Let me show you how to do it. First, don't mind my interface looking like this. I created a video on how I set up my Photoshop for maximum image quality. I'll put the link of the video in the description below. You can watch and see how I set up my Photoshop to look like this. So for you to install the actions, let me delete this one and then okay. So after you set up your Photoshop like this, for you to install the actions is download them, navigate to where they are inside your computer. So for example, my own is on my desktop. All I will do is double click on it and then they are already inside my Photoshop. All I have to do is go back to my Photoshop and here they are. To have a better view of your actions, all you need to do is go to these 4 lines where I'm hovering my mouse around, click on them, and then you see bottom mode. Here you go. Now let's get to editing our picture. First, we need to make sure how many bit is our picture, and then we play frequency separation that is exactly the bit of our image. So our image is 16-bit, then we are going to be playing frequency separation 16-bit. How do you know how many bit is your picture? Is just by going to image mode and then you see whether your image is 8-bit, 16-bit or 32-bit. So for this image is 16-bit, which means we are going to be using frequency separation 16-bit. So now let's click our frequency separation action 16-bit. Here we go. The action will automatically create layers for you required for frequency separation. So it will stop to where it says Gaussian blur. What you need to do here is you take down your radius to 0 and navigate to where there is a lot of skin texture in your image. Areas like the forehead, let's zoom out. So I always use areas around with forehead because forehead is mostly where my focus point is. It's always on the eye. Only if I'm not chance, then I place my focus point on the forehead. So I always find the area rich with skin texture. So what I will do here is I will start increasing my radius until it reaches to the level where I cannot clearly see my skin texture, then I stop. You should not be too far or too behind from that spot. Immediately you cannot clearly see your skin texture, then you stop. This is the matter of instinct. So you just have to follow your instinct. Immediately you cannot clearly see your skin texture, that's where for you to stop out. So as for me, I think it's around 4. All right, let's go with 4.6. I think it's okay for me. I can see my skin texture but not that clearly. Let's even increase to like 4.8 and then we hit our OK. So what we are going to do next is to go over and select our mixer brush, because we are going to be using mixer brush to mix our skin, and then our LUT brush is unchecked, our clean brush is checked. Will remain custom here, and then our weight is 15, load 15, mix 15, flow 15 as well, and then sample all layer is checked. So before we start mixing, we need to make sure high FS layer is unchecked, and notice if we uncheck the high FS, our picture is a little blurry. Remember when we played frequency separation action 16-bit, we added Gaussian blur. So it's the Gaussian blur that is now visible. We are now seeing it. Don't worry, there is no any problem. So what we do now is to start mixing our skin using the mixer brush. Before you start mixing your skin, what you should understand here is, if you look at her face, there are different level of highlights and shadows. Some part of her skin are darker compared to some other parts, so we have different shadows and different shade of shadows, and then different shades of highlight. These differences of shadows and highlights are what exactly makes her face to look like this. So for you to maintain her look, you need to maintain every shadow and highlight at exactly where they are. So what happens is, anytime you use your mixer brush and start mixing a particular area with a certain shade of highlight and shadow, what happens is, the moment you click, your brush will sample the color of that particular area. So if you are mixing, you need to mix around that area so that you won't move that color of skin to another area where it's having different color or different shade of skin. If you are moving to a different area where it's having different shade of light, you need to let go of your click and then move to another area, then you click again. Then your brush will sample that area with a different shade of light. So if you click again, your brush will sample that area of color, and then you continue mixing. If you are moving to another area where it's having different shade of skin, then you have to let go of your click and then move to that particular area, then you click again, then your brush will sample that area with different shade of skin, then you continue mixing. That is the only way you maintain highlights at their area and then shadows at their respective areas. The whole idea is to blend the skin and then make the transition between highlight and shadows to look seamless. So if you are learning, you just have to do it slowly. You don't have to rush it, So if you are a beginner, or if you are just starting to learn frequency separation, it needs to take you some day or some times of practice before you get perfect at it. So it's something that you need to take your time and practice until you get better at it. So the best thing is just to practice as much as possible as you can. Our brush may touch the hair, but it's something we can fix later after we are done mixing the skin. It's either the hair or the eyebrow, so it's not something to worry about. We'll fix it after we are done mixing the skin. And notice the way I'm mixing the skin. I'm not moving my brush like too wide. I'm just clicking a particular area and then strictly move my brush around the area. I'm not moving my brush like too much. I'm just mixing right in a kind of round movement. So that's how you have to be mixing your brush. There are tons of ways of doing frequency separation, but I just find this one more friendly, because this is something that I can do, and if I make mistake, I can go back and fix it. And what you should understand, areas where there is boundary between highlight and shadows, that's the transition between highlight and shadows, mix in between the transition so that you will smooth the transition between the highlight and shadow. As I said, the idea is just to flatten the skin and then to smooth transition where there is and to smooth any transition between highlight and shadow. Alright, let's check back our high FS. Let's do before, after, before and after. Now we are done mixing the skin. Now it's time for us to clean the areas where our mixer brush happened to touch, and we don't want that. Places like the eyes, the eyebrow, the lips, and then the areas around her face. So what we do is we are going to go back to our color correction layer, then we go for eraser tool, or you press E for shortcut, and then we zoom in our image and carefully clean out these areas, the eyebrow, as you can see, and then the eyes as well, because we don't want any smoothness there, any smoothness from our mixer brush, so we don't want that entirely. So we are going to erase all these areas using our eraser tool, like the side of her face. Zoom out a little. Just need to carefully erase these areas, and then we zoom to the ear, since we also brush there. So where we have these shadows are only places we are going to use our eraser. And then places like shadows of our earrings, and then under the jaw. Oh no, that's too much. Let's do Ctrl Z, and then we lower our brush. Let's do Ctrl Z again. We are good. Then the lips, like this side of her face. Then you zoom out. That's it, I think. Let's do before and after again. Before and after. So immediately we are done cleaning up, the next thing we are going to do is to remove the blemishes. So how do we remove the blemishes? We are going back to our high FS, then we select clone stamp tool, shortcut is S, and then we zoom in our image and begin and start to remove our blemishes, beginning from the forehead to the jaw. So that's from the top to the bottom. So how do we do that is to go near any of the blemish we want to remove, like this light blemishes. Then we go to their side and hold our Alt, we click, we let go, and then we stamp on the blemish. So that's how we go over until we remove the entire blemish on her face. We Alt, we sample, click for sample, and then we stamp on the blemish. So that's how you go over until remove the entire blemish on her face. So I think we are done removing the blemishes. Let's do before, after, before, and after. The next thing we are going to do after removing blemishes is to enhance the details of our image. How do we do that? Is by duplicating the high FS. So what I'll do is I'll press Command J, and then it will duplicate it. If I do before and after, notice how the details increases. So what I usually does is to play with the opacity until I reach where it suits my taste, then I stop there. I think around 50 is okay. Let's do before and after. Let me add it a little more. So it depends on the image. There are images that doesn't require this, so I won't do it at all. And then the opacity I will use for this particular image might varies for another image, because it all depends on how much details do I need more on the particular image I'm working on. So for this image I will work around all right, let me just leave it around 50, 51, before, after, before, and after. This is okay for me. And then the next thing we are going to do is to do a little more is to do a little dodge and burn on the picture. So I'll play my dodge and burn action. I'll play it. So after it created the layer for me, what I'll do is to select the normal brush, and then my flow I'll keep it at 3%. Let's use 3%. And then for burn, it darken the shadows, and then for dodge is for brightening up the highlight. Basically it's just basically what dodge and burn is used for is to enhance the highlights and then to darken the shadows a little more, because it will give more dimension to your model face. So let's get to it and see. Burn, you start brushing on the bone gradually, so you don't have to be brushing excessively, just brush a little more, and then you do before and after. You quite see the effect there. So that's why we are using a very low flow, that's a 3%. So now we are darkening our shadows a little more. We are burning. It doesn't need to do too much, so I think I'm okay like this. Then I bright up my highlight by going back to dodge layer, and then I bright up my highlights. As you can see, you just have to brush very lightly. So now if you go for the overall dodge and burn layers, let's do before, after, before, and after. I think we are okay now. So the last thing we are going to do for this image is to color grade the skin. So I will also put a link in the description below. You guys can download my skin LUTs, they are absolutely free. So what I will do is to go for adjustment option, and then I select color lookup, and then I double click, and then I click, and then click again for load LUTs. So here are my LUTs. If you download, you can also navigate and use any of them and see how they will affect the image. So let's try number 1. So before and after. Let's try the other LUTs. Maybe the other ones might work better. For the second, that's before, after, before, and after. Let's check the third and see. Oh, that's before and after. Don't forget, you can always play with opacity if it is too much. So let's take it back to 100 and try the last one and see which one will work better. This is the last one, that's number 4. Before, after, before, and after. If you like it and it's not up to the level you want it, you can always press Command or Control G to duplicate it, so that the effect will double up. So for now, let's delete the duplicate which you recently did. I think the number 1 is okay for me, and that's what I'm going for. That's the number 1 LUT. Okay, before, after, before, and after. Let's reduce the opacity a little. All right, let's do before, after, before, and after. This is okay for me. I forgot there is something very important that we should do to the image, which is brighten up the eyes. So what we do is we select the white eyes and teeth action here, and then we zoom in our image. It's loading, and then we select our normal brush. Our opacity 100 and flow will go back to 100, and then we brush inside the white eyes. That's it. So you just need to carefully only touch the whites in the eyes. If you go over, you can toggle by pressing X, and then you brush over where you mistakenly brush that you don't want the effect at that area, like the blacks, and then you press X and go back to your white, and then continue brightening up the eyes. As simple as that. And if you are done, then we zoom out. If the eyes are too bright, then we play with the opacity as well and reduce it. Already the eyes is not that red, so we are not going to need too much. Let's do before and after here. Before, after, before and after. Let me even reduce this a little more. Before, after, before and after. This is okay for me. So that's it on how I retouch my images, starting from frequency separation down to removing blemishes, and then we color grade the skin by adding one of my LUTs, and then we then lastly brighten the eyes using my actions. So basically that's it. Thank you for watching the video. If you are not subscribed, be sure to do so, and if you are subscribed, make sure to turn on notifications on so you can be the first to view my latest content. And also remember to comment and leave a like if you enjoyed the video.